Hi, are you wanting to make your basic Octoprint installation easier and better to use? Well, join me today as I show you some of the advanced features and plugins and different options to make that a little bit easier to use. See you inside. Hello and welcome to today's video. Today, as I said, we are looking at Octoprint again. And the reason why we're looking at it again is to make it even more functional for you to use. We're going to tackle a few things today, like setting a host name so you don't have to go get the IP address all the time. It'll have a name that you can type in your browser, go get it. We're also going to look at Plugin Manager. So there are a ton of plugins out there that are available for you to install on Octoprint that make things easier and more functional for what you're trying to do. It may be a plugin suited for your printer or something along that line. Like Creality has a heat issue right now with the Ender 3 V2. A plugin was created to make that more manageable by Octoprint. So it's one of those things. This video is more about trying to empower you to use that Octoprint feature to your will, basically. So we're going to look at that. I'm going to discuss some of the possible options you have for remote access, which is being able to look at Octoprint on your phone. So we'll discuss a few of the apps that are out there and available for that. I probably won't do a setup guide because there's way too many different things in environment. You may have to change some things in your home router for it to get out, different things like that. But we're going to discuss the options and then just kind of look at other features that you may be able to use. We'll probably talk a little bit about cameras because, picking the right camera for you is important with Octoprint. And there are a couple options and easy ways that you can do that. So let's jump to the first item and setting the host name so that we can just type a name in our browser instead of having to go get that pesky IP address to get to our Octoprint. So join me at the computer. Okay, so the first thing, like I said, we're going to give our Octoprint a host name. That way we can go to our browser, just type in a name, and boom, we're there. So here's all we got to do. Open up a file in Notepad++, and then what we're going to do is I want to call this one Manger 3. This is my red one. So I'm just going to call it Ender 3 Red. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to save this as, and you got to give this a specific file name that I'm going to copy into view here. Octopi-hostname. That's all you got to do. And save it to your SD card. You save that to your SD card. We'll pull up the boot D and we'll refresh because we just saved a new file there. And Octopi hostname. Now, this one's in my computer, but we're going to pull up a new Chrome window. Pull one over here. And I'm going to go to CR-10 V1. So this is my V1, my CR10 version V1, my original CR10 that's back in my workroom. I gave it that file, and I gave it the name CR-10-V1, and it takes me right to it in my home network. This only works in your home network. Just remember that. But instead of having to find that IP address, and there it finally loads the picture, the printer's not doing anything right now. I got to change some filament or something, probably to put this one onto its next task. But now all you got to do is type in that CR-10-V1 or whatever you name yours. It has to be one word. So don't do like my rainbow pony with spaces. Don't do that. Name it Octoprint 1, 2, 3, or 4, but put it all in there and put that name in that file. And from now on, that will work in your home network, and you'll be able to go straight to it. You don't need the IP address. Boot up your Octoprint. Boot up your Raspberry Pi with your Octopi. Boot up this wonderful guy with his SD card and have him connected to your printer. Go to your name, and boom, that should work. That simple. There are other ways to do this. This is the easiest way to get it done, is just pop that SD card in your computer, add that file, and then boot it back up on your Raspberry Pi, and that should work for you. So, host names. So, now on to the second part. Let's talk about plugins. What can you do with plugins? What can I add to make Octoplapse and Octoprint and all this thing do everything I want it to do? Well, in the first video, I kind of hinted on this. There is a plugin manager, and it recommends some plugins that you can install just right off the bat. Usually you know, there's a pretty good list. You can do firmware checks, G-code viewer, logging. One I do recommend if you want to get really cool time lapses of your print. Octolapse is a good one. I already have that installed. I really enjoy it. You can get some Pi support, software updaters. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, virtual printers. But there's more that you can do. So let's do Creality and hit get more. So I'm actually going to install this Access Anywhere because I don't have access to my stuff outside of it. And this is one of the ones I was wanting to try. It's going to go through the install. But there's a ton of plugins and options that you can do on here. Octolapse is one that I recommend because I enjoy it because it gives me really awesome time lapses. Because you can work with the G-code and have your nozzle move, take the picture, and then it does the next layer. Then takes another picture. So there's all kinds of cool features in here that you can do while this one installs. I should have waited. Hang on a second. Let's let this install. We'll be right back. Okay, so that plugin installed. But one of the ones you need to look at too, especially if you got like an Ender 3 V2, some of the newer Creality printers, there is a problem. And you need to do this Creality 2-time temperature reporting fix. Install that, and that will actually get Octoprint and your Ender 3 V2 and them working correctly. But you can do, you know, there's older Cura Legacy, delete move after print. There's all kinds of stuff in here, and there's printer specific ones that you can do. But even EPROM, if you got a filament sensor you can connect in. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff people have put out here for this platform. But enough about talking about that for the moment. So, sticking with plugins, let's talk about Octolapse. So, I'm actually going to kick over here. And as you can see, it's upside down. Spoiler for upcoming episode. Whoops. But I have this plugin enabled. It's set for my CR10. It moves to the center and moves my print head to the left every time it takes a shot. It's doing MP4s for me. And it's doing all kinds of really cool stuff. And as you can see, you can get all kinds of... I'm doing 2 versions of time lapsing. So I'm going to grab that one real quick. Or maybe I'm not. Hang on. Time lapse. A lot of times I can get it from over here. That may be an error. It happens sometimes. But I did 2 time lapses. One in the old method, which is built into your system, which you can change all this stuff. Like I need to up that to 60. But I just haven't done it. Then you can see cool things like this is upside down. Oh, this was for another project that's upcoming. But you can see we're doing some pretty cool prints, and that doesn't need to come up. So I don't know why it's asking that. We're going to deal with that later. So Octolapse gives you a lot of cool options to see things and get really cool views for your settings. So one of the things, you'll just have to go through and you'll have to show and enter in settings for your printer. You have to create a profile. Like I had to go through Cura and get all these settings and give it to Octolapse so it knows how to trigger my printer and work properly for stabilization, triggering, how to know when to take the picture, all that stuff. And you can even add camera profiles. So some people are adding DSLRs on here and letting Octolapse take the shot. So there's a really cool thing about it. There's a really nice logging. It will tell you about it, and there's the information for everybody that's helped with Octolapse. So if you're going to be printing, Octolapse is an awesome tool that you can use. I highly recommend it. I love the feature. That's how I get a lot of my time lapses. I use both methods, but it's just kind of one of those things that lets you do some pretty neat stuff. It also, make sure you're doing the software updates. As you can see, I'm a little behind. Pretty easy to fix. You just hit update all when you're not printing, and it will install all your updates for you, which I need to do. I'll get to that another time, not on this video. So, on to the number 3. Okay, so as I was talking about cameras, the Raspberry Pi board has 2 ways it can support cameras. One via USB, which pretty common. But also, it also has an onboard ribbon cable for a camera port for the Raspberry Pi cameras. So those guys run about 25 bucks. They're relatively small, pretty cheap. And all it does is you take the ribbon cable, you slide it into the ribbon cable of that, put it in the port on the Raspberry Pi board like that, and you've got a functional camera that your Octoprint will detect. But that's not the only form of camera you can use. No. USB comes into play, and we can do quite a bit with USB. So, USB webcam, pretty common. You can use one of those. It'll pick it up, most of the generic webcam types. But I don't use a normal webcam. I'm actually using older GoPros. Are mounted back there on my bench that let me do the filming of all this. So even a GoPro, even the little, and I'm gonna be honest, they're not GoPros, they're generic little cheapos, but they do what I need them to do, and they connect in via USB cable, get their power and everything from the Raspberry Pi, and they work really well. So you have an option. And even with Octolapse, some of the DSLRs, can be connected to your camera. Your camera can connect to the Raspberry Pi and be utilized. There's tons of information out there in different cameras that you can use to get these time lapses and get them working for you. So it may be a camera that you have laying around the house. I think I've even seen where people are using old Android phones and making a bracket and having it film their stuff via the USB connection. So when it comes to the camera part, there is no real set, this is what you have to use. No, it's use what you have. Start dirty and build up to a better camera. It's all a starting point here that you got to get going and then build up to the nicer, better equipment as you go and make this your hobby or even a business. It's kind of one of those things you've got to look at that. Is, do I want to go? You don't need the latest and greatest to start. Just start with what you have. Start simple. So cameras, pretty cool, little cool things. But now we're going to move into talking about some of the remote capabilities that you can do. So there's all kinds of apps out there. You saw me install one for anywhere connection with, I think it was Dr. Spaghetti. That's a pay-for service, or you can use the free point of service with that to go to a web page and check on your print. And when a print finishes, it sends you an email, or if there's an error, it notifies you via email. It's, hey, something's wrong with your printer and it stopped working. So there are tons of services out there. If you're on iPhone or on Android, go out there and take a look at what's available in the stores. In your stores, and look at the plugins, see what match up, and see what's free, what maybe a pay-for service if you're really concerned about something going wrong with your printer. There's all kinds of stuff that you can use. And actually, I'm gonna grab my iPad here just to kind of list some of the ones that are available for Apple. I'm gonna get logged into my iPad here. Just some of the ones that are out there. Now, I don't have personal experience with these. I've downloaded them. I'm going to probably try them out, but they'll probably be their own videos. Is Octopod, OctoClient, OctoShell, 3D Printer OS, are just a few that are out there. There's a lot that are out on the market. What you need to do is find what fits for you, what works for you, what options work for you. So these are just some recommendations, things that you can jump forward and advance with that were kind of an addition to the original Octoprint video that I did. Kind of talking more of features and different things that you can do. So there's a lot that this little guy can do. This little bitty computer can do a lot to enhance and make it easier to trust your printer, and even be away from your printer. It's a thing that can make you and give you a little bit more trust of what you're doing. Also, it's awesome because you're storing your prints on the SD card. They're on here, they're accessible, your time lapses are accessible, and you can download them from any computer in your house. So hopefully you enjoyed what you saw today. Hopefully you get some value out of what I shared with you today. If you've got questions, leave a comment down in the comment section. I'll try to help you out where I can. If you like the video, please hit that subscribe button. Those subscribes help us out, lets us know we're doing the right things and that you enjoy what we're putting out on the channel, and it really does mean a lot to me when you subscribe. So hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys, and we will see you in the next video.